Well, welcome back to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Powered Up Coaches Show, sponsored by Sideline Power. Folks, what a treat this episode is. Had an opportunity to speak with uber successful Clarkson-Leigh football coach Jim Clarkson. So successful, they named a town after him. I'm sure he's heard that before. But folks, so many layers to his story. First, how he went from Hamilton, Montana to get to Nebraska. How one of his greatest mentors is one of his biggest rivals. The pinnacle of his career, would you think it's that state championship he had in 2022? Let me tell you, I'll give you a hint, it's something much bigger than that. And lastly, one of his mantras, make where you're at big time. And that's why he's going into his 25th year at Clarkson-Leigh. Enjoy the show. Well, I got to tell you, there is so much to talk about with your career, so many layers. But, Coach, before we get started, we got to go back and travel out to western Montana. Hamilton, Montana is where you grew up, right in the middle of what sounds like absolutely God's country. Bitterroot Valley, around the Sapphire Mountains. Normally we start off with those backyard football games, but why do I have a feeling you might have been a trout fisherman out there growing up?
Well, there's plenty of backyard football games as well. But, yeah, my dad was he's a heck of a fly fisherman. So, he did take us out there, a lot of hikes, a lot of day hikes, a lot of backpacking trips. It was a beautiful place to grow up.
Did you hunt a little bit too?
I'm not much of a hunter, you know. My dad and brother got into it a little bit. My dad's he's a good hunter, good bow hunter. Me, I just rather watch the football game, I guess. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
never made it out.
So, listen, football games in Montana, backyard football games, they had to be a little bit colder than what they are here in Nebraska. Or is that a misnomer? Yeah, to me, it just seems cold up there in Montana. Not so?
It's probably worse here. It's the wind. You know, we don't have the wind like we do here. So, I mean, it's very similar to Nebraska. It's we live in the valley, you know, so, you know, you'd see the snow up in the mountains maybe, but wouldn't always hit the valley floor. So it's just very similar to here in Nebraska.
Yeah, I got to imagine there was never a day in the summer that there wasn't something to do, whether it's outdoorsy stuff or football or baseball. What was a summer day like in Hamilton, Montana?
Like you said, a lot of things. If it wasn't a sporting event, a lot of times we'd go float the river or go fishing. You could just walk down to the river and do some good fishing down there in the old Bitterroot River. So there's a lot of that stuff, a lot of floating the rivers and swimming rivers and rope swings and all that kind of good stuff. So that was always kind of fun. Or we'd go up to the lake. You know, there's lots of lakes available. So my friends had some good boats and jet skis, and we'd do some of that stuff. So a lot of fun. It's real fun to grow up there.
It sounds idyllic. There's no doubt about it. But we always have to talk backyard football because to me, there's not a football coach I haven't had on that hasn't had some epic backyard football games. So, again, did that exist? And tell me about those games.
Yeah, I have two older brothers. So I was the good one getting taken out most of the time. But we had a pretty good little neighborhood going on there. So it was a lot of, just like anybody else, you know, my age, you know, we had to, during the football season, it was backyard football in the backyard. A lot of rocks and stuff, though, sometimes. So you had to be careful. And then,
you guys were tough. We always say they're rugged up there, but you're playing on a rock field.
Yeah, sometimes, yes. We had a haul rock. We had a big rock pile at the back of our yard. That we found a rock, had to take it to the rock pile and get it out of the way. So it's but yeah, it was fun. Again, we had a good neighborhood group of kids, and again, we'd get together and have the backyard games and flag, tackle, whatever the day brought. So it was a lot of fun.
So was football your sport? I mean, when you were young, were you like, this is where I'm going, or was there another sport you gravitated to early on?
Yeah, probably baseball was early. Of course, we didn't have youth football or anything like that, and you couldn't play until junior high. But so baseball was kind of as a young kid, and that was always kind of the big game. We have a pretty good baseball community. But yeah, I've always loved football. I love the helmets. I love the uniforms. I love the physicality of it, and I love the whole thing. So.
I was going to ask you, what drew you to it? Because you had two older brothers, and so getting hit was not something that you were immune to. So
no.
What drove you to football, do you think? Was it the physicality? What was it?
Yeah, I think it's just all of it. I think just the suiting up. You know, you got to put on the armor and like I said, the helmet, the shoulder pads, and just the cool uniforms and the teamwork. And I'm not a fast guy, so I was never. But there's a spot for everybody, right? You can be the big guy on the line or the fast guy in the back, or it's kind of great variety in football. Where everyone can play. Kind of, you don't have to be 6'5" basketball player. You can be a 5'9" kid that can get in front of somebody and block him for a little bit, hopefully, So
Were you a lineman?
I was.
You were a lineman. Okay. Now, was it 11-man football in Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it'd be like it'd be similar to a Class B school here, I suppose.
Yeah.
About the same size.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. You get introduced in a way to coaching in high school because your wrestling coach, John Quayne, was really the guy that gave you your first inspiration into coaching. What was it that he introduced you to that made you start thinking maybe you were head coach?
I didn't know about a head coach back then, but I just really appreciated the way he kind of treated us. He had a great way of making relationships, and he talked always so glowingly about football when he was a kid. He played at Carroll College there in Montana. And he just always was just talking about the Shrine Bowl and all the different things when we were young. And I just liked the way that he was always around it. He's a huge Packers fan, so he was always just talking football and talking sports. And we'd have trivia, on long bus rides in Montana. Long.
I bet. What were they? 2, 3, 4 hours?
Oh yeah. Most of our conference was at least 4 hours away. I think we had one town just 20 minutes away, and after that, everything was 4 to 6 hours away just in our conference. So we had a lot of long bus rides, and so we just talk a lot about just life and sports and whatnot. And I just always appreciated the relationship he had. And I always thought, man, that must be kind of a cool way to live. And so that's kind of what got me into that.
So it really is for you. And you said something to me before we went on the air as we started to kind of do the research. For you, the pinnacle of your career, you have always said, is watching your players grow up to be great men. And I'm thinking the relationships is what drove you to coaching, not the wins and losses or the wins and the championships. It was relationships.
Yeah, I would say so. It's so much fun to be around the guys. I mean, being part of a team. I guess it's always been fun being part of a team. I guess that's part of it. Drives into it too, right? Just being with a group of guys with a common goal. I always just thought that was really a cool thing, and of course, it's still living it today. And I love that part of it. I love being around the guys, like you said, and then watching them. Now I've been doing this long enough. I just went to a wedding this last weekend, and just running into a bunch of former players and how they're doing and their kids and their families. It's just really, it's cool. It's really fun to see.
Yeah, because you've been doing it for 25 years now. It'll be your 25th season. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and how you get those players to become great men. But before we do, let's go back to Montana. You graduate, and now you get to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. How in the world does a guy from beautiful Western Montana get down to UNL?
Again, all goes back to football. Now, I wish I had a cool story and I got recruited or something like that, but that is not the case. But I wanted to go to a big-time football school. I loved college football. I love watching it. I went to the Montana games often, went to them just about every Saturday, and those were fun, but I wanted to be on the big time there, and Nebraska was affordable, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were really good, so it was a nice combo. So that led us out here. And
yeah, what year was that, too? I'm thinking you might have been in the 90s?
Yep, 93 would have been my first year here in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that'll right there. That just goes. Any university that thinks the football program isn't important. Good recruiting tool, even though you didn't go into the football program. So,
yeah, that was cool. And there's Mark Gilman was a tight end, and actually he was a couple years older than me, but I thought we were friends. We became friends at the university. Oddly enough, I kind of ran into him and started talking. But he was kind of a guy we looked up to. He was a couple years older than me, and watching him throw the shot put 60 feet, and I knew he was going to Nebraska, and it's like, oh, that's cool. He's big time. So
yeah,
I thought that was kind of cool.
So are you one of these football coaches that says, come on, we got to get you out for track? Because I know a lot of football coaches. Matt Rule has been very open about it. He wants his, he looks to recruit guys that are great in track. Do you have that same philosophy?
Absolutely. I'm one of the track coaches. So
sure you do.
Yes, of course, we would like to get our guys out for track as much as possible. Just competing. We just want them to compete. I mean, I'm cool if they want to go play golf or something else too, but we definitely want them competing. But track's definitely an advantage.
So now you are in college, you're graduating, and it's time to make that next step, right, into getting into education and coaching. Who got you introduced to Clarkson? How did that all come about for you?
Just kind of happenstance, really. I did my student teaching out at Raymond Central. Jack Gould, who was head coach there. That was a really good experience. I really enjoyed that there. And then, the summertime came, and I guess I graduated in December. So I had a semester of substituting. And then so I started looking for a job, and I ran across Clarkson, kind of laughed, but I had had a PE and a history endorsement. So they had that job opening. So I just kind of threw my name in there. I threw it in anywhere I could and went up there. And I guess I wowed him enough.
Here we go,
But
25 years later, right?
yeah,
So,
and actually John Richards, who's down here in Ashland,
yes.
he was the head football coach at the time up there. And we had a really good time. He was a really good guy to get introduced to things. So I kind of helped him for a couple of years, and then he came down here, and they had no one else, so they threw it to my inexperienced hands, and we had to learn the hard way. So baptism by fire.
So tell me about that. I mean, were you ready in your opinion? Were you ready to go?
Of course, I think if you ask any 25-year-old, they say they are,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but of course, when you look back on it, no, definitely was not. So definitely some lumps and some good learning curves in there, but I've always been kind of lucky to have really good assistants, and so it was yeah, we just kind of fought our way through it and learned and talked to people and figured things out, I guess.
When you look back on that, I mean, what were the key elements to learning? Because again, to go in there, you said trial by fire. What were the steps that you took to say, I want to make sure I'm ready? And what would you recommend to these young coaches who maybe get thrown in trial by fire?
The biggest thing is just seek out other people. I mentioned Mike Spears.
Yeah.
He was our neighbor 6 miles away, and just kind of I met him and we started talking, and he was a very, very good guy to be around. He was very helpful. Got me introduced to a lot of different other people, and just going to clinics. Of course, now you can spoil YouTube and all that stuff, I suppose, nowadays. So that's helpful. But I don't think there's anything better than just going to clinics and talking to people who've been through the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Been in the fight. Those are the guys that can really help you. And you develop. You have an idea of what you want to do, but it's just good to talk to somebody. And how do I implement this? Or maybe tell you that's not a very good idea, man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Seems like a good idea, but this is what's really going to happen. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's kind of the key there. Yeah, the more you can talk to, the veteran coaches or coaches that know what they're doing, and just be open to learn things and evolve. Everything evolves, right? Your defense evolves, your offense evolves, your practices evolve, everything evolves over time. So it's just a matter of what your influences are and who you learn from.
It's so interesting to me because Mike Spears was generous enough, right? Here you guys have this incredible rivalry. He's over there at Howells Dodge, and you guys have this incredible rivalry. Yet he was generous enough to say, all right, I'm going to give one of my, up-and-coming, coaches that I'm going to compete against on Friday nights some advice. What does that say about him that he was willing to share some of that?
Oh, he's a great guy. He's actually a champion of our sport, especially in, the 8-man community is probably a little tighter than the 11-man community, but yeah, he's an open book. He'll tell you anything. Actually, funny story, just 3 years ago, they were playing Neely Oakdale in week 1, and Coach Beacom called him up and said, I need to learn more about defense. They were playing week 1. He literally 3 weeks before their first game, he came down and told them exactly what they were going to do defensively. That's kind of the 8-man community, though, and that's Mike Spears. He's not hiding anything. We'll line up. We're going to coach our guys to do this, and you're going to have to beat us. But I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do. So.
That's amazing. It reminds me a little bit. Anytime you look at these coaches that have had great success, I mean, they really want to see other people succeed. I mean, your passion, of course, was seeing your players, go on and do great things. But where does that come from within a coach? That unselfishness to say, "Hey, you asked, I'm going to help."
Again, I think a lot of it comes with maturity. Again, I think when you're younger, you think, I know something that they don't know. Mm-hmm. They know. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows. So there's no secrets. It's a matter of, can you get your guys ready? Can you coach your guys up? Do you have some guys to coach up? All that stuff is what really matters, and it doesn't matter what your X's and O's are. Every once in a while you can scheme something up that might get some sort of advantage. But generally, if you're coaching against someone else who's really good, it don't matter. Yeah. You can coach against a Mike Spears or a Ron Beacom. They've seen it all. So It's just a matter of, can you execute better than they can? So why not share it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's no secret to it. So.
Well, listen, you guys have had some incredible rivalries up there. I mean, Howells Dodge is one of them. How does a rivalry like that make your program better?
For us, it was huge. Being on our highway up there, Highway 91, again, my first couple of years were rough. We took a lot of lumps. But having Dodge up there and Howells up there before they consolidated, St. Francis, Lee was really good, Lindsay Holy Family,
yes.
The list all the way down that 45-minute stretch there. opposite of Montana, right? Everything's 6 miles away, and they were all really good. A lot of years there was 2 state champions out of there from each class. So it just kind of made you have to, get tough or die, to quote Johnny Cash there, right? You just kind of, you figure it out. You figure out how you're going to play, because you have to play physical. You have to play in the trenches. You have to run the football. You got to tackle. And that stuff, when it happens to you week after week, your kids just got to figure it out. And then, and those kids, all those kids know each other, so I don't want to get beat by Johnny from Howells, and right. So eventually the kids get a little bit tougher, and, and we got smarter as coaches, and probably made things simpler. And let's just go out and play. And hopefully we can match up with them. And luckily enough, we were able to finally get to that level.
Right. It's interesting because Coach Hudson up there at Boone Central, he always says that Northeast Nebraska is the SEC of Class C1 football. Yeah. And I listened to all of these great schools up there in 8-man as well. What is it about Northeast Nebraska that generates such great football players?
That's a great question. I don't know, but you're right. It is. It really is. In C1, C2, 8-man, it's tough up that route. I don't know. There's a lot of good teams up there, and just I wish I knew the answer. I'm glad we're up there. We always joke with my friends from Lawrence Nelson, old Coach Blevins. He's like, it just feels different up here. I don't know what it is. And I'm like, I don't know either. It's just tough.
They breed them tough up there. I love it. So listen, you've had so much success. Your teams have gotten to the playoffs 18 of 24 years. That first round of 32, you've made it 18 of 24 years. So it's one thing to get that success, but then the harder thing is to sustain that success. If you're a coach out there and you're listening to this, what would you say to them? This is how our model has been to sustain success for that long.
The biggest thing I think is this enthusiasm. Promote the program, keep your young kids involved, get them excited about it. I'm big, and it's a cheesy way to look at it, but it really works. People make fun of small town schools for buying T-shirts, but you walk into our school on any day of the school year, you'll see at least 10 Patriot football T-shirts. Playoff shirt, a state championship shirt, just a team shirt. Just get that apparel out there, get kids excited about it. Of course, winning helps, because the young kids see the winning and they want to be a winner as well. So of course that helps. But just, I think, having that high enthusiasm, getting your program out there, I think treating kids the right way. Can't really abuse them or anything, the old school way of coaching in theory, I guess. But, we try and treat our kids well, treat them with respect, but we push them. Mm-hmm. We want to push them, but we want to have enthusiasm. We want to celebrate their successes, and, we try and do that stuff and just keep kids interested. Hey, this is a fun program to be a part of, and we want you here. And I think we've been doing a good job for however reason that is. I don't know exactly what the secret sauce is. I'm glad it works out, but our kids keep kind of coming out, and every once in a while we've had several camera kids. They want to be the cameraman before the focus here, but that turn out, and by their second year they're like, I want to play. So then they come out actually for football. So that's really kind of cool.
So get them involved any way you can.
Get them involved any way you can. Absolutely.
You said something, and I've always been curious with this, because I think every coach has a little different spin on it. You said we push them, but at the same point, you don't push them to a point where obviously they're turned off by the sport. So how do you walk that line? How do you balance that as a coach, to expect a lot out of them, but also to make sure they know that you're invested in them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I really don't know how you do it. I guess other than we do it. I guess, we try and hold them accountable. We make things important. The weight room, of course, like any football program. But I think, you can't ask too much. There comes a point of, and don't get me wrong, there's programs that do it. Pierce, I know they demand a lot out of their kids, and their kids, that they're very successful. But we try to really limit them in the summertime. We know they're involved in other sports. There's basketball, and there's wrestling, and all that other kind of stuff. And our kids farm, they work hard. They work hard all day. And I just had our quarterback today. We're doing a little something tonight. He's like, I might be late. We got to bring cattle out to Burwell. All right, well, get there when you can, So, our kids work hard, but we try and we want to be making sure we're getting our work done, but we don't want to burn them out a little bit. And I think that helps a little bit. And then, like I said, we just kind of keep promoting, we have big posters all over our weight room, from the last year's season and things like that. Like, hey, this is an exciting place to be. This is where you want you to be. but we understand that you have a life outside it, but we need you for an hour a day. We need you for this much time. So
that balance, I
that
think.
balance, yeah, it's hard to find that balance, but you just got to try and ride that line, I guess.
Coach, how much do you love that your players are living on farms and on ranches? You have got to love that, don't you? Throwing hay in the summer, all this stuff.
Yeah. We have a lot of them. And
you have your own conditioning program, right? Just built in.
Sometimes. So they're hard workers. They are. They're hard workers, and our kids show up. I guess that's the people ask me all the time. How do you get so many kids in the weight room? I say, I don't know. We say, hey, be here, and they're here. 5:45 in the morning, and I don't even know why they want to go that early so they can get to work. And I know that you're supposed to have more sleep and all that stuff these days. And I wish I could say, hey, we're going to lift at 9, but they got things to do, so they want to get after it. So.
That's just part of the culture too, isn't it? I mean, when you live on a farm, there isn't a lot of sitting around. When you live on a ranch, there's not a lot of downtime, is there? Right. They're used to going, aren't they?
They are. They work hard. In summertimes, they work hard.
Yeah. So here's what I love about your career. 25 years. This will be your 25th year, as we mentioned earlier, at Clarkson-Leigh. Started out just Clarkson, of course. Everyone thinks you've got to climb the ladder. Bigger is better, right? You start out, you go 8-man, then you're C1, then you're B, then you're A. You've chosen to say, look, I'm really going to put my roots here at Clarkson-Leigh, and this is where I want to be. So what has been that pull to keep you at Clarkson-Leigh for 25 years?
Yeah, it just kind of worked out that way. I mean, I guess I looked around at times, but yeah, it just always kind of felt right. They've treated us really well there, and again, it's been fun working with the different kids and different groups, and now I got former players' kids in their classes, and so that's kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. I guess like everybody, you kind of look around, but it's never, the grass isn't always greener, and it's been kind of fun to develop the program, and now you kind of got it established. You don't really want to start all over, and there is something now. I've hit that point of I guess it's kind of cool. You kind of want to just be at one and not the 16 different schools like some people are, and so
right.
Yeah, it's been fun, and like I said, having Coach Spears down the road there, we're really good friends, and he's been there for a long time, and I've been here for a long time, and it's kind of is what it is, and it's kind of fun to keep going. So.
I was going to say it keeps those games on Friday night. When you know each other that well, it keeps those Friday nights pretty lively, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gets entertaining sometimes. Sometimes there's some chatter across the field every once in a while. Usually in a fun way. More in the JV games and the high school, the Friday nights. We try to keep it a little more professional, I suppose.
Like it. So, Coach, look, you've had a lot of accolades in your career, but one of the things that stood out to me is you were the NCAA Nebraska Coaches Association Coach of the Year for your 2022 state championship season, awarded in 2023. But what's so impressive about that is, one, it's your peers who voted you Coach of the Year. Two, it's all inclusive. It's you were Coach of the Year, 11-man, 8-man, 6-man. It was you. So first, what did that honor mean? The fact that your peers reached out and said, this is the guy that we are honoring as Coach of the Year. Let's start there.
I'd say that means everything. That's really kind of the cool part of it. Right. That was kind of the neatest thing about winning the state championship in general, just the amount of coaches, 11-man, 8-man that reached out. And I really appreciated that. And yeah, that Coach of the Year was that was really cool. I thought that was really a neat thing. So.
Yeah. And on top of all of that, I mean, when you take a look at, those accolades and having an opportunity to be awarded Coach of the Year, when you look back on it, what helped you get there? I mean, what do you think your peers see in you to honor you with that? I mean, what are your attributes that they're seeing that say this guy deserves it?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's just I think they respect the fact that, as you mentioned, I've been at Clarkson and Clarkson-Leigh for so long, and been through the bad times, been through the dark 0 for years or one win seasons, and kind of worked our way up from the bottom, and to get all the way there. So I think they just recognize that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Someone did tell me that if you stay somewhere long enough, your chances of winning go up. I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess in my case it's true. So, just the longer you're there and can establish a program, and I think people just respect, again, that I didn't jump ship ever, and again, I've kind of rode the roller coaster, and luckily we were fortunate enough to get one. Hopefully, maybe it'll be another one someday. We'll see.
Hey, everyone gets a piece of advice along the way that they say, man, without this piece of advice, I might have been lost, or it was the most important piece of advice I got with my career or with coaching? I know it's hard to boil it down to one thing, but what stands out to you as a piece of advice you got, whether about your career or just about coaching, that was really profound to you?
Actually, along the same lines, what you just asked me, probably is make the big time wherever you're at. You know, make your place big time, and that's when you went back to talking about promoting the program. That's a big piece of it. That always kind of stuck with me. Like, yeah, these kids, to them, that Friday night is awesome. It's no different for a Miller North kid than our kid. They have the same butterflies. They have the same excitement. They're ready to go. You know, and we got to play Memorial Stadium, so the West Side. You know, I mean, we're getting the same thing. So really try and keep that excitement. Like, these kids, to them, this is their Super Bowl. You know, most of them, we don't have a lot of kids go on to play college ball. They just don't. Some of them get out opportunities, and I'm gonna be a diesel tech. You know, okay, cool. You know, so we get a lot of that. So this is their highlight. This is their sports highlight. So we really try and emphasize that, and that was a really good piece of advice. I was very taken by that, as far as, oh, that's cool. I don't even remember who said it. I think it was at a clinic, some guy from Oklahoma, I believe. So that always stuck with me.
It's funny how sometimes those things that are kind of random can resonate the most. And let's talk about Friday nights. Now, listen, Friday night is for football, in high school football in Nebraska, right?
Absolutely.
I got to imagine that, you're not – most high school coaches are a little bit dismayed about this decision for Nebraska to have to play it. I don't think they made that decision. I think it was made for them. But there's something that's just so special about a Friday night under the lights, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's
100%.
it feel like to you? I mean, it's almost sacrilege, right? That anything
absolutely.
would come up on Friday night. But what's it like for you?
Oh, I just love it. I mean, like anybody, any coach would probably tell you, it's just, I don't know, it smells different, it feels different. You wake up Friday morning, just, the kids are excited. They're wearing their jerseys at school. And just the whole thing, the whole pomp and circumstance of the whole thing is fun. Again, small town, our football fields are in parks, and, and the smell of the food, the waft of the smoke hanging over the field, and the, all that stuff, the music playing, and I love it. I love everything about it. I love the camaraderie, even with the other coaches. There's not a lot of angst. There's always a good conversation in the middle of the field before the game with the other coach, and just the players, putting the eye black on or taping up their ankles. All that. I love it all. I think it's just fun. It's a great place to be on a Friday night.
Those are great visuals about Friday night, without a doubt. So, what do people not understand about 8-man football?
The average one, it's football. I was really worried. I had never played an 8-man game. There is 8-man in Montana, but I never had watched one.
Right.
So the first game I ever saw was in Clarkson, Nebraska. So, it's football. It's a little trickier, with the numbers. I know coaching defense, everyone always tells me, is a lot harder an 8-man than 11-man. But it's the kids tackle, they block, it's physical. In some places, I think the further you go down south, Oklahoma and some of those areas, it's more of a little bit more backyardish, I guess, for lack of a better term. But up here, it's good old-fashioned smash mouth football for the most part. It's going to line up, and we're going to run, and they're going to run, and you got to stop it. And so it's good football.
Well, I got to tell you, my first experience with 8-man, I was in college. I was a freshman, and a couple of Hampton Hawks. Roger Witkowski was a heck of a quarterback for Hampton, and a guy named Mike Burke, who was a lineman. They said, come on, we're going to go back to Hampton. We're going to watch a game. I don't know if Hampton's consolidated now or not, but we went back on a Friday night, and I'm telling you, there were cars pulled up almost to the field. There were a lot of horns honking on the big plays, but the electricity in the air that night was really special. And I was like, boy, people are missing something if they haven't been to an 8-man game, which I hadn't at that point. But I don't think people understand just about the electricity and how it feels on a Friday night at an 8-man game.
It's definitely different. Now we've seen a few of those fields, that have come into, that they have dropped, and they have the track and the one stands, like a lot of the C schools. And those always feel a little bit more different, because a lot of fields we play, at our home fields, that crowd is on top of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can hear Uncle Bob yelling at you. He's getting after you right there, or the officials or somebody. Right, so you're right. They're right on top of you. The best is the playoff games. You show up there to make sure the field's ready or something in the afternoon. There's already 10 cars already parked there and saving their spots and getting things ready to rock and roll. So that small town, It's kind of pure as a driven snow, kind of, so to speak. It's kind of the way it should be, I think. There's not no one transferring. There's no one switching schools. It's our guys against your guys. Let's line up and play.
It's community versus community for sure because of that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So I always love talking to a coach who comes from a different state, grew up in a different state, because we believe in Nebraska that it's just part of the fabric of life here. But when you came here, football, I'm talking about, fabric of life, are there similarities in Montana football as there are in Nebraska, or is it different in Nebraska?
I think it's different here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's similarities. I mean, high school football is high school football. I loved my high school playing days; they were great. But yeah, I don't know. It feels different here.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that. Yeah, it's part of the reason I've kind of stayed. I've looked at going back every once in a while, but I'm like, the falls always remind me that Nebraska's kind of a special place that way. It's awesome.
Yeah. Love hearing that. Now, I got to ask you this, and I'm going to say this. You don't have to, but I want your opinion on it. Class D1, there are 61 teams, right, playing 8-man football in D1. Mm-hmm. I sit here and say I could make a real easy argument that D1 is the most competitive, of classes, with 61 teams competing. You have that round of 32, then they reseed. Mm-hmm. I mean, this really sets up for an intriguing, state run. And is it the most competitive when you've got 61 teams battling for one title? And I'm saying most competitive.
I don't know. Maybe. C1's awfully tough, I always thought.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of really good programs there. But, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of teams, a lot of good teams. 8-man, it's like every other class, though, right? I mean, there's kind of become more the haves and the have-nots. That upper half, it's tough. Mm-hmm. It is really tough. And there's a lot of good football players. You asked earlier, what's the difference? And there's not a huge difference. And say the caliber of kids you see these days. I mean, we played the Schluter kid down in EMF. My God, that kid was a man. Mm-hmm. But everyone's got him now. I mean, Dundee County, I saw some of their kids at state track. I was wow, those are athletes. So there's just a lot of really good football players. So yeah, it makes D1 very tough. I didn't tell you another kid, that Brecken Erickson. I think he had a good Shrine Bowl the other day from North Pass.
I went on Saturday. Yeah,
he was a load, man. He took us out in the playoffs, and I was like, tell you what, man, that kid was good. So. There's just a lot of good players, and so yeah, it's pretty damn competitive, I think. Yeah.
So, and I got to ask, Carter Nelson, did you go up against him this year or the last couple of years?
Oh, I have not. No.
Yeah. What's the word? I mean, that guy, when he is out on a field, he just, like you said, he looks like a man-child out there.
I didn't see him on the football field, but I saw him on the track a few times. He's a freak athlete for sure. He's a special dude that way. It's amazing. It's amazing because I kind of ran in circles with his dad for a while. He was at Humphrey and then Wisner for a little while, but before they went out west. So I would have never believed that his kid was going to be that good of a stud, but he certainly is. He's everything is advertised.
Well, we're all pulling for him because there's no better story, right? If an 8-man guy
absolutely.
can come in and do that.
Yeah, they got the Dickey kid from Cross County too, another 8-man kid. So, and another kid went to Illinois and from Cross County. So it's the 8-man guys. They're there. They're out there and they represent pretty well.
Yeah. You told me that Nebraska is the mecca of 8-man football. I want to know why you say that.
Yeah, is it or not? I don't know. I think outside of California, just by pure numbers, we have the most teams that play it. We're the biggest state that plays it for 8-man from everything that I've learned. I don't know. I suppose that's just an arrogant statement by me, I suppose. But
no, not at all. I love it.
We played back in the early 2000s. I know we played Oklahoma in a state versus state game for a couple years, and that didn't go very well for Oklahoma. We played Kansas, I think, for 3 years. I got to be part of one of those coaching staffs. And I think they beat us once, but then we kind of dropped the hammer on them the next 2 times, and they kind of got out. So I like to think that the way we play is just a little bit. Again, I think we play the more traditional football style, as opposed to trying to, there's less guys, so you got to do something different. It's not like a 6-man where it's even spread out as much. It's still played in a phone booth.
Yeah.
At least that's the way we like to play.
Well, that's what college coaches love hearing too, that you guys are coaching them that way without a doubt. You told me your most humbling experience was when Bob McAvoy asked you to be on the 8-man Hall of Fame board. You get a chance now to review the resumes, right, of these great coaches, these great players. But again, the most humbling experience was this. And again, I think it speaks to the 8-man, the pride in the 8-man. But tell me a little bit about why that stands out to you.
Just what you said, it's just crazy, and Bob's done such a great job. I mean, so we started off, and he started this thing from scratch. So he went way back to the 50s, and another reason why we're the Mecca, because we've been playing it probably almost the longest, just about. So we went way back to the 50s and found all these great names, and like, oh, that's cool. And then of course you go through the Steinkuhlers, played at Sterling, and all these big names. Oh, and this guy was in the NFL, and this guy did this, and that guy did that. From Hyannis, why can't I think of his name now? Stud for Nebraska, D lineman.
I know it's on the tip of my tongue too.
Stuck in my brain there.
Yeah, because he played in the NFL.
Yes. Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah.
But just those kind of guys, and just seeing that, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. There is such a huge tradition here. And then, now as you're going through it, now we're starting to hit the point now where we're getting players that we coached against. And, oh man, yeah. Now how do you pick? Well, that kid was so good, but is he Hall of Fame? And it's just seeing some of those names and how good those guys were, and are these some of these coaches that we've put in there. I've been lucky enough to coach against a couple of them, but some from back in the day. The Ken Cooks, DeBoer, Gary DeBoer. I mean, those guys are they're just amazing guys. They're kind of Tom Osborne-esque, as far as the 8-man world goes. So it's just really cool to see those names, and I don't know why I have any power to decide, but it's a big board. Don't get me wrong, and we had a great board of great knowledge people on there, and I'm just one small voice on there, but it's just really cool to kind of be a part of that and just see the history of not only just Nebraska high school football, but the 8-man side of it.
Yeah,
really cool.
Well, 25 years of coaching in 8-man, I think you're well qualified, and I'll tell you, I know your players would say it too, because you said the pinnacle of your career. You said it isn't necessarily winning, going after the championships and the success on the field. It is seeing your players grow up to be, great contributors to our society. Again, it says so much about you that that's your pinnacle of your career. You went to a wedding. You said this last weekend to watch one of your former players or be there for one of your former players. So what do you do as a coach? I know coaches want that, but what do you try to instill from a coaching perspective to get that end result from your former players?
I think the big thing is just respect, right? Respect and truth, and trust. You got to develop that trust. Do you show up? Are you committed? I'll be there for you, or you're going to be there for me. And that kind of sticks through those 4 years, right? Because the kids that don't, they don't become part of that fraternity, that whatever,
Right.
So those kids, you develop that trust. It goes, like I said, it goes beyond Friday nights, but of course that matters too. Hey, coach, give me the ball. I'll make it. I had a kid tell me that once. I'll make the catch. Okay. And he did, and we won. It was great. But, but having that confidence for a kid to tell you that, or just, when you go into the huddle and the kids are like, hey, let's go for it here. We can get this, and just that camaraderie that, hey, let's do this for each other. We can do this. If we all work together, we can get it. And then it goes beyond then. It goes beyond football, of course, in the classroom, and, in any small school. Probably any school coach will probably tell you this. The English teacher's upset or something. Hey, could you talk to Johnny? He's kind of been a little jerk in my class. And the football coach, he'll go take care of it.
So how does that conversation go? I'm always curious.
It's just pretty much you need to tighten things up. That's not the way we roll, So, and we usually make the point pretty clear. But again, if you develop that respect and that relationship, and then of course when they get out, it carries on that. And of course, it molds into an adult relationship, which is much different, obviously, than when they're in high school. But it's still the good old days, and it's still they like to talk about glory days with you, and which is fun. It's always fun. But just all that stuff, it starts with just that respect and trust.
Yeah.
This starts when they're freshmen. Do they show up? Do you treat them well enough? Are you honest with them? Can they be honest with you, and that kind of thing. So,
what about that kid that comes into your program that needs the program more than football, but they need the program? They need some of that structure. They need to be around. Tell me about.
They need football more than football needs them.
There you go. That's what I'm trying to say. How rewarding is that for you when they make it through those 4 years, whether they end up being a great player or not?
100%. Yeah. No, that absolutely is probably one of the best. Is so many kids. every coach will always do it. You know, you size up kids in 5th grade. You size them up, and is that kid going to be something? You know, freshman, you're like, it's a nice kid, but I just don't know if he's got it. You know. But they stick out and they stay committed, and then next thing you know, one day they're out there, they're playing, and they're doing everything you ask them to do. Or in some cases, yeah, you're right, they don't even sometimes are the players. You know, we had 19 seniors this last time, and we didn't play like 19 seniors last year a lot, but every kid was committed. They showed up, they never complained, they never, they were great, just teammates, and that was kind of a different kind of rewarding. That was really cool, So that's very special. I think when a kid's, being part of the team, maybe it kept them out of some trouble. Maybe it let them feel like they're a part of something, or, I think that's very valuable.
Yeah. Well, we're going to transition now to the what we call 3 and out. So we're going to give you 3 kind of oddball questions here, or I'm going to give it to you, right. And tell me what you think. So let's start with the first one here. You've got to beat Howells Dodge coach Mike Spears in one competition other than football. It may be taking him on in arm wrestling. It may be taking him on in chess or a one-on-one basketball game. But what sport are you taking on with Coach Spears to beat him in?
Well, the whole thing's open. No. I don't know.
Come on now.
Well, like I said, there's so many to choose from. I think that would dominate him in. So I'll keep it simple. I'll keep it simple because I know he probably doesn't even know how to play the game, but I'll say pickleball. Okay, nice simple sport.
So yeah, if he's never played, you got it. You're a heavy favorite.
He beat me in football most of the times, unfortunately, and he beats me in poker. So other than that, I feel like I like my odds about anything else.
I love it. Pickleball it is then. All right, here we go. You're the commissioner of all of Division I football. And the TV networks come to you and they say, look, we've got to keep playing college games on Friday night for the TV revenue that we're going to give you guys. Now, you're the commissioner. What do you say? What do you say to these TV networks? And would the door have to be closed, I'm thinking, when they come?
Yeah, I would like to say go kick some rocks. But, yeah, I don't like it. Like everybody else, I don't like it. Let's find another day. Let's play some more Monday Night Football, maybe.
Yeah.
Get some college on Monday night. How about that?
I like that. I like anything but Friday, right?
Anything but Friday.
I love it.
That's our time.
All right, last one. You've got a chance to spend one day. You can shadow any coach, past or present coaches that might not be with us anymore, coaches that are still coaching, and they can be in any sport. Who do you shadow for a day? Who do you tag along with for a day to learn from?
My first instinct would probably be Tom Osborne, but of course, recently Rule's intriguing. I really like what Rule has going on.
Why is that?
I don't know. He's got a really good energy, and he just seems to have a really good plan. And the way he goes about it, a lot of things we talked about, he does it from a much higher level than I'll probably ever do it. But I like the way he rolls. I like his organization of things. I like his enthusiasm. I like the way he promotes the program. I like the way he's going. Mm-hmm. So right now, I'd probably go Matt Rule right now just because I'm intrigued by how he does some things.
Yeah, and that is so good to hear, too, from the high school coaches. Everyone I hear uniformly, he's out there, his staff's out there. And you're right. Boy, the energy is off the charts, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, not afraid to promote the program. How important is that for a high school coach to promote their program? I see some coaches who are like,
yeah, I think it is. I don't know if it is or isn't. I don't know. But I believe it is, I guess. I think it's important. I think it's good for kids. Again, talking about kids feeling part of something and then making that something special, And, hey, look, this is out there. Hey, this is what happens. The football team got to do this. The football team does that. That's kind of a big deal, Or, hey, when the football players get this happen, they get recognized for this. So I think that's an important thing for a lot of kids. Your high-end athletes, they don't care because they're high-end athletes. They're going to have to compete and do whatever anyway. But for that middle-of-the-road kid, I think that's important to promote it and like, oh, this looks like this could be kind of fun hanging out with these guys. I want to go give this a look. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I do too. Well, listen, from the Bitterroot Valley to Clarkson-Leigh, Nebraska, and a lot of wins along the way and a lot of development of great people. We have truly enjoyed having you down here, Coach, and best of luck. And we're going to have to do this again sometime.
I'd love to. This is fun. So
yeah,
appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks.
You bet.
All right.